Ladies and gentlemen, there's a moment in everyone's life when they feel the sting of disrespect. A word said too sharply, a tone that cuts deeper than it should, or an action that screams louder than any insult. In those moments, our instincts scream to react, to defend ourselves, to match fire with fire. But today I want to challenge that instinct with a different kind of power. The power of silence. In a world that constantly pushes us to react, to defend, to explain, to retaliate, silence is often misunderstood. People may see it as passivity or avoidance, but in truth, silence after disrespect is one of the most powerful responses you can offer. It takes far more courage to hold your tongue than to lash out. It takes far more discipline to stay composed when your pride is bruised, when your name is dragged, when your character is tested. That is strength, not the loud, aggressive kind, but the quiet, unshakable kind. Staying silent doesn't mean you didn't feel the disrespect. It doesn't mean you're okay with being mistreated. What it means is that you've made a conscious choice not to let someone else's behavior dictate yours. It means you're in control, not them, not your emotions, not the pressure to react. When you remain silent in the face of disrespect, you refuse to give the other person the satisfaction of seeing you rattled or reduced. This strength in silence shows that you know your worth doesn't waver based on someone else's inability to recognize it. You understand that real power doesn't always need to be proven. It can be felt. Silence becomes your armor, not because you're hiding, but because you're protecting something more valuable, your peace, your focus, your energy. You know that to respond to everything that offends you is to give away pieces of yourself to people who don't deserve them. In a noisy world, your silence will stand out. And often it speaks the loudest truth of all, that you've mastered the art of self-control and nothing anyone says or does can shake who you are at your core. It's easy to internalize disrespect, to believe that maybe you deserved it, that something about you invited it. But the truth is this: when someone disrespects you, it says infinitely more about who they are than who you are. Disrespect is a projection. It's often a reflection of internal struggles, hidden insecurities, or unresolved anger. When a person feels small inside, they sometimes try to make others feel smaller just to feel tall. That behavior, no matter how personal it feels, is rarely ever about you. It's about what's happening within them. Think about it. Kind, whole, emotionally intelligent people don't go around belittling or humiliating others. They don't throw shade, mock, or attack out of nowhere. People who feel secure in themselves lift others up, or at the very least let them be. But those who are hurting often try to hurt. Those who are bitter often try to poison the peace of others. So when someone disrespects you, consider the source. What are they projecting? What are they trying to cover up? Understanding this doesn't make the disrespect feel good, but it does make it clearer. It reminds you not to take it personally. You are not defined by someone else's inability to treat you with kindness or basic decency. Their words and actions are mirrors into their own inner world, not yours. When you shift your perspective in this way, you begin to separate their behavior from your identity. You stop letting their opinion have weight. You stop allowing someone else's brokenness to become part of your story. You begin to realize that you can walk away from disrespect not because you're weak, but because you see it for what it really is. Noise from someone who hasn't learned to handle their own silence. And in recognizing that, you reclaim your power. You no longer bend or shrink under someone else's darkness. Instead, you stand tall in your light, unshaken by shadows that were never yours to carry. When someone disrespects you, there's a natural fire that rises up. The instinct to respond, to correct them, to return the energy they gave. It's a defense mechanism, a way to assert that you're not someone to be played with, not someone to be looked down upon. And while that reaction might feel justified in the moment, it can come with a cost. A cost that's often greater than the satisfaction of any comeback. That cost is your peace. Peace isn't just about being calm or quiet, it's about protecting your mental space, your emotional clarity and your energy. It's about not allowing someone else's chaos to pull you into a storm that isn't yours. Every time you react impulsively to disrespect, you give a piece of your peace away. You allow their negativity to enter your spirit, their words to echo in your mind, their presence to linger in your day longer than it should. Sometimes reacting feels like reclaiming power, but in truth, it often hands over control. When you react immediately, especially in anger or frustration, you put yourself in a position where your emotions lead instead of your wisdom. You might say things you don't mean. You might act in ways that don't align with your values. You might win the moment, but lose your balance. It's not showy, it's quiet, rooted, and deliberate. And that's what makes it so valuable and so easy to lose in a split-second reaction. To preserve peace, you must learn to pause. You must learn to be okay with not responding, with walking away, with letting someone else's words fall flat against the wall of your self-control. That doesn't make you weak, that makes you wise. Because the truth is, not everyone is worthy of your energy. Not every insult deserves your presence. And not every moment is meant for your engagement. There is immense power in choosing peace over performance. In knowing that you don't need to react to prove your worth. You already know who you are. And when you truly know that, peace becomes your priority. Not proving a point, not getting the last word, not matching someone else's level of disrespect. Just peace. And once you value it enough, you'll protect it at all costs. Even if that means saying nothing at all. There is a unique kind of power in silence. The kind that comes from deeply knowing who you are, what you stand for, and what you will not allow to disturb your sense of self. Silence, especially in moments of disrespect, is not about being passive or dismissive. It is about recognizing that your energy, your words, and your attention are too valuable to be wasted on someone who has chosen not to treat you with basic decency. In that way, silence becomes one of the highest forms of self-respect. When you stay silent, you are making a conscious choice to preserve your dignity. You are saying, without words, I don't need to engage with this because I know my worth. You are refusing to give someone else the satisfaction of pulling you out of character. And more importantly, you are choosing not to compromise your values just to prove a temporary point. Reacting to disrespect often involves stepping down from the place you've built for yourself, the mindset, the maturity, the level of calm you've cultivated. It requires you to lower yourself into a space where conflict, ego, and anger live. And sometimes that descent isn't worth it. When you remain silent, you stay above it. You protect the version of yourself that doesn't need to be loud to be heard, that doesn't need to fight to be seen, and that doesn't need to argue to be validated. Silence sends a message that words sometimes cannot. I will not trade my peace for your chaos. It speaks of discipline, of restraint, of self-awareness. You understand that your presence is not a gift to be offered in every situation, especially not in places where disrespect is currency. Some may misunderstand your silence. They may call it avoidance or weakness. But what they fail to see is that silence often requires more strength than shouting ever will. It requires you to master your impulses, to silence the inner voice screaming to respond, and to walk away with your head high when every nerve in your body wants to turn back. And in that stillness, you grow. You reinforce your boundaries. You teach others how you expect to be treated, not by retaliating, but by showing that you will not entertain what does not align with your value system. Because at the end of the day, staying silent in the face of disrespect isn't about them. It's about you. It's about honoring yourself enough to say, I don't owe you a response, I owe myself peace. In life, there will be countless opportunities to engage, to correct, to clap back, to argue, to defend. But if you accepted every single invitation to conflict, how much of your time, your energy, and your emotional well-being would remain intact? That's the truth many people overlook. Not every battle is meant to be fought. Some are distractions, some are traps, and some are simply beneath you. True wisdom lies in knowing the difference. When someone disrespects you, your pride may feel bruised. You might feel the urge to stand your ground, to fire back with words just as sharp, to make sure they know they can't talk to you like that. But before you react, ask yourself, what will I really gain from this? What will I lose? More often than not, the cost of engaging far outweighs the benefit of winning a petty war. Some battles, no matter how justified they seem, only pull you away from your peace and closer to someone else's chaos. Fighting every battle can drain you. It wears down your spirit and fills your mind with negativity. The truth is, some people want you to react. They thrive on drama, on tension, on watching others spiral. And when you step into that arena, you're not proving your strength. You're stepping into their game, playing by their rules, and risking becoming what you're trying to stand against. There's great maturity in realizing that silence is not retreat, it's strategy. It's choosing your ground, your timing, and your priorities. It's knowing that your energy is a limited resource, and wasting it on meaningless conflict robs you of your ability to focus on what truly matters: your growth, your peace, your purpose. Not every comment deserves a comeback. Not every insult requires a confrontation. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is let it go. Walk away, not because you couldn't win, but because it's not worth your time. You don't need to defend yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You don't need to prove your worth to those who are determined not to see it. When you stop showing up for every battle that calls your name, you begin to see the value in your silence, the strength in your restraint, and the freedom that comes from no longer being controlled by your reactions. And slowly, you start winning the war that truly matters, the one between who you are and who the world tries to provoke you to be. There comes a time in your personal growth when you realize that not everything needs a reaction, a clarification, or a defense. That moment, quiet, subtle but powerful, is when you begin choosing peace over proving a point. It's when you stop feeling the need to be understood by everyone, to correct every false impression, or to win every argument. And in that choice, you begin to taste real freedom. There's a deep human urge to prove ourselves, to make sure others know our intentions, our value, our side of the story. Especially when we feel disrespected, our instinct is to set the record straight, to remind someone that we are not to be played with, to reclaim control of how we are perceived. But proving a point often comes with a price: your peace. The effort it takes to explain yourself to someone who's already committed to misunderstanding you can be exhausting. Worse, it rarely changes anything. Sometimes people don't want the truth, they want drama, they want reaction, they want a show. And when you step into that dynamic, trying to make your case, trying to show why you're right and they're wrong, you feed the very thing that disrespected you in the first place. In doing so, you give them the power to dictate your energy and your emotional state. But when you prioritize your peace, you rise above all of that. You begin to understand that you don't need to respond to be valid. You don't need to be loud to be powerful. You don't need to defend your every move to prove your integrity. Your calm, your stillness, your decision to walk away from unnecessary confrontation, that is the proof of your strength. Your silence becomes your statement. Your refusal to argue becomes your boundary. Choosing peace over proving a point doesn't mean you lack backbone. It means you've evolved beyond the need for external validation. You understand that your inner world, your clarity, your emotional stability, your well-being is too important to put on the line just to change someone else's mind. You're no longer in the business of pleasing everyone or correcting everyone. You're in the business of protecting what matters most. Your balance, your growth, your direction. This doesn't mean you won't speak up when necessary. It means you won't waste your voice on places it won't be heard. You'll speak with intention, not out of impulse. You'll choose the higher ground not because it's easy, but because it allows you to move forward with grace, with focus, and with peace intact. In conclusion, silence in the face of disrespect is not an act of weakness, but a powerful choice. It is a testament to your inner strength, your ability to protect your peace, and your wisdom in knowing that not every battle is worth fighting. Disrespect says more about the person delivering it than the one receiving it. And by choosing to remain silent, you allow them to expose their own character while preserving your own. By valuing peace over the need to prove a point, you elevate yourself to a higher standard, one where your actions are guided by self-respect and emotional maturity. The path of silence may not always be easy, but it is one that ultimately leads to a more peaceful, centered life. It is a path of mastery over your emotions, of knowing that your peace is priceless and that your energy is better spent elsewhere. In choosing silence after disrespect, you become not only the master of your own reactions, but the architect of your own peace. Remember, you don't need to explain yourself to anyone who is not willing to understand you. Sometimes the most profound response is no response at all. Stand tall, stay silent, and let your presence speak louder than words ever could.